In most cultures and societies, we look up to our elders. We hold them in high regard, and when they give us advice, generally we take it. However, if they give us a warning, we should take it seriously. I'm the Gingerbeard Man, and if you like anything mysterious, macabre, or miraculous, well then you've come to the right place. So sit back, buckle in, and join us for today's video. Chad Lansman sat at the bar staring into his beer. His indoor soccer team had just come off a humiliating defeat, and as such, everyone had to pay penalties. But him, being the goalkeeper, his penalties were the worst. He took out his phone, WhatsApped his girlfriend that he'd be late, downed his last shot of tequila, and put 200 Rand on the table. He greeted his teammates and left for home. Now, being late, the car park was very empty. He got into his car, plugged his phone in, and began his journey home. He had only been driving for about 5 minutes when his petrol light came on. Now, he didn't want to risk getting stuck, especially on the route he was traveling. So at the next off-ramp, he took it, parked at the nearest petrol station, and waited patiently for an attendant to come. Now, although it was 1 o'clock in the morning, it was quite a busy petrol station, so Chad was annoyed that it was taking so long for someone to attend to him. After what felt like forever, but in reality was only a minute or two, an attendant came and helped Chad. Chad, who was annoyed, but even more drunk, simply asked him to fill it up unleaded 95. No greeting, no manners. The attendant was clearly annoyed with Chad's attitude, but decided not to confront him on it, and began filling his car up. Chad took his phone to WhatsApp his girlfriend. That's when he realized that the Google Maps route had a part highlighted in red. Now this meant that there was a delay in traffic. Chad zoomed in and saw that it was a roadblock. This made Chad very nervous. He definitely did not want to go through a roadblock. He knew that he was well over the limit, and if he had to blow into the breathalyzer, he would probably spend the rest of the night in prison. So, zooming in a bit more on the screen, he looked for an alternative route. And to his surprise, he saw that just a 2 kilometer or two from the petrol station was a side route. Now, it was not part of the main road, and it looked very quiet, but he thought, perfect, I can go through there quickly, get home quicker, and avoid the roadblock. So, that's what he did. He took his phone out, and he told his girlfriend of the plan that he was going to take. While the gentleman was filling up his car, he overheard the voice note Chad made to his girlfriend. And when he brought the speed point to Chad to pay, he kind of had to tell Chad his feelings. He tapped on the window, which Chad had rolled up, and Chad rolled it down once again. For the first time, he actually looked at the attendant. And when he did, he almost got the fright of his life. The attendant was old, tall, and lanky, and he only had one eye. The other eye was a glass eye. Something right out of a horror movie. That almost sobered Chad up immediately. "Excuse me, sir," said the old man. "I don't think you should go on that road." Chad took the man in, still trying to get over his sight, and said, "Well, it's none of your business, is it?" At saying this, the old man looked into the sky. There was a bright, full moon that evening. He looked back at Chad again and said, "Sir, please trust me. You don't want to go down that road. Bad things happen on that road." Chad looked at him once again and said, "Can I pay, or do I have to keep listening to your stupid advice?" As much as the old man wanted to warn him again, he had resorted to giving up on Chad and his rubbish attitude. He simply held the speed point out, let Chad pay, and Chad was on his way again. At first, things were going fine. Chad found the side road, and he was on his way home. But it was very, very dark, and the few street lights that were on the road were not working. He hit his brakes and pushed the accelerator. Now, not being in his right mind, having too much to drink, he knew he shouldn't be driving that fast, but he didn't care. It was now 1:30 in the morning, and all he wanted to do was get home. He was speeding along with the clear road ahead of him, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he saw a massive pothole. He slammed on brakes, but it was too late. His car went right into it, and after driving for a few more meters afterwards, he could feel that his tire was loose. Brilliant, he thought. This is all that I need. He pulled over and got out to examine the damage. Now, Chad did have a spare tire, and he was no mommy's boy. He could change a tire, but this was really not a place you wanted to change a tire. It was extremely dark and even more deserted. He quickly took the jack out and began getting to work. However, as he was about to take the tire off, he heard something rustling behind him. He turned around, and it was only then that he realized that this deserted road was flanked on each side by huge reeds. Anyone or anything could be hiding in those reeds, and all Chad could remember was this old man's advice not to go down this road. Detective Van der Walt was on his way home at 2:45 in the morning, and ahead of him he could see lights, a lot of lights. He realized it must have been a roadblock. He had nothing to worry about. He had nothing to drink. He was a policeman, and if he wanted to, he could probably skip the queue. But he didn't feel like doing any of that. So he was happy to take the turnoff and go down Oak Refuge Drive. He had been driving for what must have been about 3 or 4 kilometers, when in the distance he saw these orange lights flickering. He too switched on his brights and saw that a car was stopped at the side of the road. He parked behind the car, got out, and examined what had happened. Forgetting to close his car door, he took his flashlight out and started shining it around the floor. He went to the driver's side and saw that there was no one in the driver's seat. Maybe someone had to go and relieve themselves, he thought. There are lots of reeds by, maybe someone had to go and pee. Although in the back of his mind he knew, if anyone had to pee on that type of road, they're not going to go into the reeds that typically do their business by the tire. So he walked around the front of the car, and as he shone his lights by the passenger door, he froze. The passenger window had been smashed, and he could see pieces of glass lying everywhere on the floor. But that's not what really scared him. What scared him was along the window frame were chunks of flesh and hair stuck onto the window frame. He traced the light all the way from the window frame down to the floor and saw that there was a pile of blood going from the floor onto the side of the road and into the reeds. And although he couldn't make it out properly, he could swear that he saw fingernail marks, as if someone had been dragged into the reeds. He turned back to examine the car, when he too heard something in the reeds behind him. He swung around and heard what could only be described as something being pulled through wet grass. He shone the light from the floor and slowly adjusted the beam higher and higher until 2 red eyes were staring back at him. Now, Detective Van der Walt was a seasoned police officer. He had seen pretty much everything. Not much scared him, but that night he felt petrified. As he was staring at these red eyes, he realized they were getting bigger and moving closer towards him. His hand went for his service pistol, but then his fight or flight instincts kicked in, and he turned and he started to run. He ran as hard and as fast as he could, and to his horror he could hear something large galloping behind him. He dared not look back. He got to his car, grateful that he had left the door open, quickly got into the driver's seat and slammed the door closed. He had just locked it in time when he saw mist, or what he thought was mist. It was actually the hot breath of something that was hot on his heels. He turned his head sideways, and he was greeted by the most horrific sight he had ever seen. Covering almost the entire window was the huge head of what looked like a wolf, but it looked human. He looked into its eyes, and the two kept eye contact. And then, to his utter terror, it slowly started opening its mouth. Its teeth were blood-stained. You could see chunks of flesh hanging from it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it winked at him. Now, he couldn't believe what his eyes had just seen. Could it be some large wolf? If it was, he had never seen a wolf that size. He had definitely never seen a wolf, or any animal for that matter, keep eye contact with a human and wink at them. He was so transfixed on what he was seeing out the side of the window that it took him a while to register the cold breath on the back of his neck. Someone was in the seat next to him. His mind was in 2 places. Do I keep staring at this creature that hasn't taken its eyes off of me? Or do I look and see who or what is sitting in the seat next to me? Eventually, he slowly started to turn his head to the side. And there, sitting across from him, in the passenger seat, was a woman, dressed all in white. However, she had no nose, she had no ears. All she had were deep red eyes and a mouth that opened up to say, "Thank you, officer. Now you have brought dessert for my pet." Detective van der Walt tried his best to get out the car, but the last thing that would be heard on that desolate road were his screams, and the full moon would light up the scene that the sad detective would have to find the next morning. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Once again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this type of story and you'd like to hear more of this, then consider subscribing so you can stay up to date. And when I drop videos, you can be the first to watch them. Stay safe. God bless.